This is Radio Chatskill. I'm Tim Bruno. In her series Eating Upstate, Erin Shearer goes to local establishments, restaurants, and food businesses to talk to the folks behind the facades. The North Branch Inn in the hamlet of North Branch, New York, is under new ownership, and she spoke to Chef Jake Eberle and his partners.
The North Branch Inn first opened in 1868. Over the past 150 plus years, it has changed hands many times and was most recently owned by the James Beard Award-nominated Foster Supply Hospitality. In August, it was announced on Instagram that the North Branch Inn had been sold to Jake and Caroline Eberle and their business partners Andrew and Mung. Jake Eberle previously operated the French restaurant La Fond in the Greenpoint neighborhood of Brooklyn. The story of how Jake and his partners came to purchase the North Branch Inn is the subject of today's Eating Upstate. Jake Eberle grew up in Portland, Maine, and studied comparative religion and French at Carleton College near Minneapolis. After graduation, he remained in the Twin Cities area and attended Le Cordon Bleu and interned in the Loire Valley in France. He moved to New York after culinary school and would spend the next 18 years there working for the likes of Chef Rick Lochnan and the Lambs Club near Times Square before opening La Fond in 2014. After opening La Fond, he met Andrew and Mung, and in 2017 he was invited to cater their wedding in Hortonville and started visiting Sullivan County on the weekends soon after. It was around this time that Jake and his wife Caroline began entertaining the idea of operating a hotel and restaurant in the country.
This idea was something that my wife and I had been talking about for at least 5 years. And we looked at a few inns in the Portland area, where I'm from. But she has a career, I had the business, and the conversation kind of was put on hold. We were like, this is something that we want to do at some point, but we don't know when. And we think that we will figure it out. We'll know when it's time. And at that point, we'll pursue it further. But we have two business partners here, Andrew and Mung, and they live right down the street in Hortonville. And we met them because they were customers. They were splitting their time between Greenpoint and Upstate. And they came to us back in 2016 or 2017 and asked us to cater their wedding on their property at Hortonville. And that was my first introduction to this area. And we loved it. We just really loved it. But again, it was like, I just opened the restaurant 3 or 4 years ago. It was going well, and I still really liked living in the city. So we were just coming up on weekends and kind of enjoying it as visitors.
Earlier this year, Jake was informed by his landlord that he would only be able to operate La Fond at its present location for 2 or 3 more years. Unable to find another location for La Fond within Brooklyn that would accommodate their operation, he and his wife began to revisit the idea of operating a hotel and restaurant. Fortunately, Andrew and Mung had found just the right place for them.
When we realized that it was time to kind of do the next thing, we it was actually Andrew and Mung who found this, and they're like, there's this place right down the street from us. It's kind of exactly what we've talked about, 14 rooms, a turnkey restaurant, but it wasn't on the market. So we went to a broker and kind of described what we were looking for. And, we were like, we want something just like the North Branch Inn, that size, that much land. And we looked at a couple things and nothing felt quite right. And we finally just reached out to Foster Supply and were able to work something out.
In Brooklyn, La Fond had cultivated a reputation for its French menu and cuisine. At the North Branch Inn, however, Jake plans to take an American approach and cook with the season. He also plans to experiment with making his own charcuterie.
Yeah, so it will be an American concept based around seasonal product. But I think the food, I think the aspect of cooking that's the most interesting to me now is charcuterie, sausage making. If you want to run a successful restaurant, you have to be resourceful. You have to use everything. Charcuterie gives you an opportunity to use all of those little bits and scraps that, normally wouldn't make it onto the plate. And we have a smoker here at North Branch, and I'm super excited to be using that to make smoked sausages and smoked meats and smoked vegetables as well. The thing that's most interesting to me about cooking now is product, sourcing product, cooking with the season. I think earlier in my career, I was more interested in the way that things looked on the plate and kind of the artistry of that. But in the past few years, it's really, I get more excited about finding the best product at the market and bringing that to people, bringing that to my customers than aesthetics and that kind of thing. And a lot of the farm relationships that I've formed over the past 5 years are all up here. So I have easier access to them. But in addition, and I think this is the most exciting part of this project, is that our partner Mung has incredible vegetable gardens at his house just down the street. So we, in essence, are going to have our own farm. And that is just really, really, really exciting for me.
In addition to Mung's garden, Jake will also be sourcing his food from Veritas, a meat producer and produce distributor based in New Paltz.
I get a product list from Veritas on Sundays, and it includes the harvest from as many as, I think, 10 to 12 other farms, including mushrooms, green vegetables, cheeses, meats. I mean, they have everything. And then I give the order to them. They round it all up in the middle of the week and they bring it all to me, and I just pay them. So it's very, very convenient because it comes right to my doorstep.
Unlike LaFond, the North Branch Inn will hold a full liquor license, which will allow for the creation and serving of craft cocktails.
Well, we have a full liquor license here. I only had beer and wine at LaFond, and the dining room, the bar area at North Branch is just gorgeous. It has that antique bar, and I really see the bar as kind of being the central point of the dining room and having a robust kind of bar business there. And in this day and age, cocktails are so popular. I feel like you have to have a strong cocktail program if you're going to have any kind of bar business. So I think that right off the bat is going to be the biggest difference between North Branch Inn and LaFond. But I also want to expand the wine list to include other parts of the state. So at LaFond, I only had New York state wines and French wines. But, we've been to California a couple times in the past years, and I've really fallen in love with a lot of those wines. I want to bring in German wines, Italian wines, and Spanish wines as well. So just kind of a more broad, wine list.
Guests staying at the North Branch Inn can expect a morning breakfast, and Jake eventually hopes to offer brunch service to the public as well.
We are including breakfast with all of our hotel stays. So, while LaFond was dinner only, we're gonna develop some of the other meal periods as well. I really enjoy going out to breakfast, so it's exciting to be able to cook those foods again. We're gonna ease into a weekend brunch, but for hotel guests, for sure, there will be breakfast every day.
The North Branch Inn is located at 869 North Branch Road in North Branch. I'm Erin Shear. Eating Upstate is a production of WJFF Radio Catskill.
And thanks to Erin Shearer for that. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, moving toward health with Maggie Fitzpatrick. She's the health and wellness columnist for the Sullivan County Democrat. This is Radio Chatskill.